Good morning. It is Tuesday, November the 14th. Another cool gray day here. Actually saw some snow the other day. That sucked. Not a fan of not a fan of snow myself. Sometimes it makes my job a little more difficult. It could go away. It wouldn't bother me, you know. As you'll have sometimes with jobs, some customers will they'll keep adding stuff here and there, you know. And this guy we're doing that lot clearing job for, he just keeps adding on more stuff and more stuff. And luckily he's a good client. You know, he understands that more trees means more money, and he's not fussy about that. He's a pretty cool dude. But some people just don't understand, you know, when they add a tree to a job, like you're clearing or you're working around somebody's house. Some people think that's free, which is hysterical. So if you have if you have a sink that leaks and you call you up a plumber, and that plumber rolls up, and plumbers, electricians, they get like $75, $80, $90, $100 an hour to come and do things. And he fixes your sink, right? And the bill's $300. Okay. And then you say to him, well, there's another sink upstairs I'd like you to look at. And he goes and looks at it and, does a little work to it and fixes it. You know, you might have had a leak, you might need a new gasket. Should that be for free? No. You're paying the man for his knowledge and his time and his materials. And that's not free. It's not free. You know, it's not fair to ask a professional to work for free. It's also not fair as an employee to let yourself be taken advantage of. You know, I've worked for all kinds of other companies, doing tree work and land work, and I've been everything from the guy dragging the brush to the guy running the job. And your pay should be commensurate. You should not let yourself be taken advantage of because you are a certain age, or because for any real reason. I show up clean, ready to do work. I do good work. I should get paid, right? Right. Somebody once said to me, a person who comes to work and is happy at work, and is appreciated at work, will be all right with being paid less. Well, that's great if you're a dreamer, because the real world doesn't work like that. And this is not a complaint against anybody, this is just my observations. I have a baby, and baby stuff is not cheap. Nothing is cheap for the baby. It's not cheap getting to work. I spend $65, $70 a week to get to work. That's not including oil changes. That's not including tires I wear out in a year or 2 years or whatever, parts, downtime. Nothing's cheap. Nothing's cheap. So don't let yourself get taken advantage of, Even, I don't get religious. I'm not super religious, but even the Bible says pay a man what he's worth. If you're not getting paid what you're worth, even if you are appreciated, that's not right. Living is not free. Living is very expensive. So go out there and get paid what you deserve, I think a lot of times people put a lot of shame on, a certain generation that they labeled millennials. The millennials are lazy, the millennials are this, they're that. Well, let me tell you something. I'm part of this supposed millennial generation, And this is the first time in my life since 17 that I've been able to get by living on my own with one job. I have had 2 jobs, if not 3, the entire time I've been out of my parents' house. When I was 17, I graduated at 17, a little early, and I packed up and I moved to Foxborough to go to automotive technician school. Learn some more than I already knew. Seek people who have more knowledge than you. And, you would have to be in class 6-7 hours a day. And then if you wanted to live, you had to work 7 to 10 hours after that. It was a long 3 years. I worked for General Motors. Luckily, the shop was open late and I could get in extra hours and I could work on weekends if I want. And, I had to bust my ass to make it by. Everybody, at least in my area, I can't speak for everybody. I can't speak for everybody everywhere. But in my area, this so-called millennial thing is a phenomenon. Everybody my age I see is trying to make it. They're working hard. They're doing twice as much work, to make the pay that they should be able to make, apparently because of the label and the stereotype we've received. We're not worth what we should be worth. What do you think, a person like me should get paid per hour to do, not work for myself, but say I worked for another company, to professionally fell, to buck logs. I also maintain the equipment because I've been fixing and maintaining equipment my whole life, and I went to school as well for, additional education. I spent my money. My parents helped me go do what I wanted to do. What's fair? You think it's fair that, do you think it would be fair if I was 30 years old and making $16 an hour? Does that sound fair for a person who can fix anything, who can cut, who can actually, use things and do a good job? I've got more hours on an excavator than I can count, bulldozer, all that jazz. What's fair? What's fair? I show up every day. I don't have any substance issues. I do not drink anymore. I show up. I do my job, and I do a good job. What's that worth? Think about that. Don't let yourself be taken advantage of. That's another reason why I subcontract. I set my price now because, I can't afford to work for $15 an hour. I'm not a kid. I made $15 an hour when I was 18. It's 11 years later now. Is that fair? Is it fair that I should make that? No. No, it's not. Not fair at all. And I don't. Like I said, I make my own price. I set my own price. And for that very reason, I am done running around looking for people's respect and trying to get money out of people. I don't play those games anymore. I get what's mine. I want what I want, and if you can't pay for it, then no hard feelings, no harm, no foul. But I'm not going to work for free. I am charitable. I do not work for charity. All that serious money business aside, this is just things that run through my mind while I drive for an hour to work. Let's talk about saws. Who doesn't like saws? A lot of people are brand loyal, and that's fine. Being brand loyal is great. But you have to realize and appreciate that other manufacturers make great saws. friend of mine was laughing the other day. He said, I've got an old Poolin, he says, and that damn thing just won't quit. It's a great saw. It works all the time. It never gives me any hassle. And I said, yeah, I know. There's a lot of, Shindawas and, Echoes, things that, saws that aren't, usually seen as desirable or are cheaply built. Well, sometimes you'll be surprised. Sometimes you will be surprised. And, I really don't think, outside of the Japanese market, I don't think there's anything made currently that is too cheap or is poorly made or, isn't professional worthy. I mean, the Dolmars, in my opinion, are, those are the best saws made. But the fact of the matter is the Dolmars just don't have the dealer support, the dealer network, and the part support that a professional like me needs. If I bust something on that sucker on Thursday night, I want to go get a part to fix it, because I've got to go do a job. I'm working. I know that saw. It's like my power equipment's like the back of my hand. I know it well. I know how it works. I know what it likes. I know what it's capable of. I know how to aim the trees with them. And, it's just not fair to the end user if you can't have parts and service. Now, outside of the Dolmars I've had primarily steels. This out here was steel country. There are 6 or 7 steel dealers in this county. I mean you can get you can spit and hit a steel dealer. But the problem with the steels are they're overpriced. They're overpriced, and the dealers cannot negotiate. They don't have wiggle room on their pricing, like you would tend to believe. A lot of these models haven't really had any improvement in a long time. The MS362 version 2 obviously got a reboot. So did the 261. They're lighter. They should have been more powerful, but they didn't get more powerful. The 362, in my opinion, is a dog. It's soft. Has soft mounts. You want to lean on a saw, that's not the saw to get. It's probably great for slash and brush and felling small stuff, but if you want a nice light package for working that's powerful, well, you have 562 Husqvarnas. Let's be honest. 562 takes a large mount bar. It'll oil pretty well. There's one with a 28-inch bar in the bed of my truck right now. It runs that 28-inch in softwood, no problem. It's usually not buried because the primary user is tall. And he just likes the extra reach, so he doesn't have to bend over so much. He's an older guy, and he doesn't like to bend over so much. But he still wants to work, so that's what he got. He sawed out a light, powerful saw that could carry a longer bar. And let's be honest, the 562 is probably the most powerful 60cc saw you can buy, ported or stock. The Dolmar 6100 has a rapport with porters for being the truly most powerful ported 60cc saw. And they are strong. It's astonishing how fast it will pull that chain. But they're not common. There's no dealer support here for those. There's a couple dealers that are a couple hours away. Well, if I need a part, it's not going to work. Saw prices, like I was saying, the steels, they're not, you can't do nothing with them. I walked in, I've been wanting a 661. You keep hearing me talk about getting 661s. Well, go into the dealer and it's $1,200-$1,300. Well, that's ridiculous. I'd give you I got $1,100 cash. Can I take that saw home? Nope. No, you can't. Okay. but I can walk over to the Husky rack and go, hey, what's that $3.95 going to run me? And they can cut me a deal. You know, they have a little deal going on for fleet guys, for, you know, for businesses where they'll take 20% off. How do you beat that? Well, a Husqvarna isn't, you know, it isn't the same quality as a steel. Yeah, maybe. I don't really think so, though. You know, I think they're pretty well built. You know, Husqvarna's been making power equipment for a very long time, and so is steel. I'm not pissing on any brand here. You know, as a matter of fact, do you want a saw tested? You can send it to me. Send me a message. I'll send you all my information, where to send it. I'll guarantee it returns in the same condition that it came in. I take very good care of my things. I don't go running around, you know, smashing saws. I haven't personally destroyed any saws ever. I'm just careful with my tools because they're my tools and it's my living. And if it's not mine, I'm going to treat it even better. So if you want a saw tested, you can send it to me. Ported, stock. I don't care if it's your Poolin Pro. I don't care if it's your grandpa's McCulloch. You can send me whatever you want, and I'll put it through some wood, because that's all I do. And I'll give you an honest review. You know, if your saw is ported, and I've got a similar saw kicking around that I can compare it to, and your saw is a dog, I'm going to let you know. You know, I'm going to let you know if it's not what it should be. You know, and it's nothing against the porter. It's nothing against the brand of saw. I'm not butt buddies with anybody. You know, I like all the porters personally. And if they sent out a dud and I tested a dud, well, guess what? It's a dud. You know, I've seen some ported saws be slower than a stock saw. Is that right? After you paid that money? You should send it back to the porter. And if the porter has, you know, if the porter has any moral fiber, he'll take that saw and he'll make it right. You know, whether he's got to put a jug on it or not, or a, you know, new jug and piston and redo the port job. Besides, they should be testing them before they send them, right? You're spending, you know, depending upon who you send your saw to, you know, between $200-300 for the service. And then, you know, if you're like me and you're in Massachusetts and there aren't really any porters close that will work on anything, then you got to spend like $50 a trip, you know, per way to ship a saw. So by the end of the day, you're at $350 to $400 to get this saw ported. Now, sometimes that's 50, 60, 70% of what you initially paid. You should get what you paid for, you know. So send me a saw. Got one coming from Mr. Matt Hall. That was done by Jason Stratton months ago. It's a model 2166 John Sered. You know, it's a 372. It's like a modern low-top 372. It's almost the same as my 2071. We'll run them back-to-back. We'll see what's what. See which saw spins a chain faster, which one has more torque. And we're going to see how long each of them will run through a tank of fuel. You know, fuel consumption is important in this field. The shape of the intake port pretty much is the deciding factor of how much fuel it uses. You know, the shape of it, how it works. You know, some saws will be powerhouses. You know, absolute blast to run. I mean, just balls to the wall, screaming demon, and it'll use that tank of fuel in moments. You know, I recall a guy I worked for had a 7900 that was just abusively powerful. It really was. Somebody ported it, and they knew what the hell they were doing with those Dolmars. But it would use a tank of fuel, a full tank of fuel, in like 8 minutes flat. That's not productive. That's not productive at all. You know, would I have taken a more mild saw that would run 20 minutes on that same tank? Yep. Any day of the week. You know, I might not be able to set my chain as aggressive as I'd like, or be able to lean on the saw as much. But, you know, more production, longer production before, you know, having to refuel and whatnot is important, you know. That's why I love the 2260. It's the small mount 562 in black and red, basically. That saw runs for a while on a tank of fuel, and it's got tons of balls. Got all the balls. My dad said, "You ever think about putting a regular carb on it?" I said, "Why? Why mess up a good thing? Why mess up a good thing? The saw runs great. It's strong as hell. Runs for a while on a tank of fuel. I can strap, I can put that 24-inch total on it and use that too. But I've really been, and that's what I bought for the saw initially, but I've really been favoring the 20-inch. It just spins the chain so much faster. I just got to be more careful about how I'm cutting and where I'm cutting. If I'm going to buck a log with it, I got to make sure to rotate over the log enough to cut through it properly so I don't get pinched and I don't crack a log. Logs are money. They say money don't grow on trees. Well, I beg to differ. You're in the wrong business. So, switching things up, trying different things. Got to try different things. I like all the saws. I don't care what it is. Yeah, going to be interesting to see how that 2166 compares to the 2071 I have. The 2071 obviously has the lightened piston and the different bearings and whatnot. I don't know if this 2166 has the bigger carb off an X torque or what it has. I'm sure my saw could greatly benefit from a bigger carb. It doesn't feel choked up, but it certainly feels like there's more in it, and I've got about 3 gallons of fuel in it. That sucker's thirsty. I gotta be honest, that saw is thirsty. It's strong, but it's thirsty. It's got a lot of torque, but it likes the fuel. Been using the red armor. Been keeping an eye on the exhaust ports. They seem pretty clean. Everything seems pretty clean. You'll notice in my videos that some of the saws 4-stroke pretty hard for a while, and I tune the saws for longevity. If I want to race, I'll turn them up, but I'm not a racer. It's not what I do. I work them. So, service truck's here. I'm going to go to work a little after 8. Going to clean up a chain and go knot off some logs, work the saws a little bit, and I'll post this yak session up later. We'll talk to you guys later.